Hello, rock and roll. Welcome back. Welcome back to Jay's Rock and Roll Stories. I'm your host, Jay, and I have some cool news. Some awesome news. I was contacted by the rep of the author, Jim Birkenstadt, and they said to me, they're like, well, we like your podcast, and we'd like to give you Jim's new book. I said, awesome. I would love to read Jim's new book. Jim Birkenstadt has covered a lot of books on the Beatles. A book about the unreleased recordings, bootleg music by the Beatles. He was the consultant to Martin Scorsese's HBO the Emmy-winning film George Harrison, Living in the Material World. He's done lots of stuff with Apple, just covering the Beatles. He's the Beatle guy, man. He knows a lot. He knows his stuff. He is the rock and roll detective. He has written a couple books about conspiracy theories, putting truth into these things. So it's pretty cool. So when they asked me, would you like to read Jim's new book, The Beatle Who Vanished, I said, yeah, I would be honored. So that's what we're doing today. The Beatle Who Vanished by Jim Birkenstadt. Let's get into it. Let me tell you all about this. So I'm going to set the table here. It's 1964, right? George Martin and Brian Epstein are going to have the Beatles do a first ever world tour. This is June 4th. It's going to include Denmark, the Netherlands, Hong Kong, Australia, and New Zealand. And as of right now, 1964, they have a top 5 chart position simultaneously on the Billboard 100 Hot Singles with I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You, Please Please Me, Can't Buy Me Love, Twist and Shout. All right, so this tour is going to be freaking expensive. It's all hands on deck. It's sort of, it has to be done. We can't lose this. We got to do it, right? Guess what happens? Ringo Starr, the drummer of the Beatles, gets tonsillitis and pharyngitis. So pharyngitis that's the inflammation of the pharynx right there between the back of the throat, between the tonsils and the voice box. So Ringo's out. George Martin, the record producer of Apple Records, calls up Jimmy Nichol. He's an experienced studio drummer who has also worked with, he's worked with the tail end of the big bands and the beginning of the new rock bands. So he's experienced. He's worked with Billy J. Kramer, Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames. So he's a good choice. He looks like a Beatle. He's got the Beatle haircut, about the same size as Ringo. So the guy, Jimmy Nichol, he's pretty excited about this. Very excited about an opportunity to be in the Beatles. Who wouldn't be, right? But George Harrison, he's like, no. George Harrison said, the band is not the Beatles without Ringo Starr. I'm not doing it. So finally, Brian Epstein, after some convincing, explains, listen, George, if we don't do this, we're letting everybody down. So George agrees to do it. All right. Let me give you some backstory on Jimmy Nichol. Who is this guy? So he is an accomplished drummer. We're going to go back to 1958. So he gets some recognition when he's playing drums in a band called Colin Hicks and the Cabin Boys. And they are filmed live by this Italian director who puts them in one of those Mondo films. If you don't know what Mondo films are, it's like an expose of, wow, look at all this crazy shit that's going on. You know what I mean? Like strippers and dancers and hippies and just kind of like a montage of setting the scene of the year and music and art and everything. So anyway, so Colin Hicks and the Cabin Boys are in this film, and it's made by an Italian director, and the movie does well in Italy. Like people like this film, and the film is successful in Italy, and they arrive to tour Italy. Colin Hicks and the Cabin Boys to tour Italy with the band, the Platters. The Platters were that oldies band, Only You know that one. So they're doing tour of Italy. There's this young guy in Italy who saw the movie. His name is Max Lubkowitz. The movie, if you want to know, it's called Europa di Notte, European Nights. That's the movie where you can see this. So Max Lobkowitz saw the movie in a theater in Italy, and he was like, I really want to hang out with Colin Hicks and the Cabin Boys. Like, I want to hang out with those guys. And lucky Max, right? His wish comes true because they tour Italy. So Max finds out about this. And he finds the band. He sort of kind of latches onto them and sort of becomes like a guide, like a translator. He becomes like good buddies with these guys. He says it was great. So he explains one time that he first experienced marijuana with the band because the smoke was coming from their hotel room. Right? He went in there. He was like, yeah, marijuana is great because it's better than alcohol, and it made the music sound great, too. Yeah, I can do that, right? So let me explain. The stage presence of Colin Hicks and the Cabin Boys. This is 1958. So 58 is kind of like your standard crooner with like a backup band, right? But the Cabin Boys, Colin Hicks and the Cabin Boys, it's crazy rock and roll. Like, the guys are jumping off the drum set. Jimmy Nichol is a really fast drummer. It's crazy. It's crazy loud rock and roll. I just out of curiosity, I went and found a song by the band on YouTube, and this song, one of their hits is called "Giddy Up a Ding Dong." And, okay, this is 1958, so it's not going to be like loud, crazy, like Nirvana or like heavy or anything like that. But it's pretty fast rock and roll for 1958. So anyway, after World War II in 1946, they made it obligatory for young men to do a year in a military service. And Jimmy Nichol got his draft card or whatever you want to call it. So shit, this is interrupting the tour here because they're going to Italy and they come back to London and then they go to other places to do a tour. So he gets his card and it's just like this is really going to interrupt our success of playing music here. So one option, Jimmy Nichol. He thought, well, I could be a draft dodger. I could just not go. But, you can get in trouble for that kind of thing, right? So he had another idea. So what he did is he just pounded the bottle for days. He got really, really wasted. He didn't sleep. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. And then finally he went in looking like a pile of shit. And they just said, no, get the hell out of here. We don't need you. So he's laughing, walking home, feeling all fucking hungover and everything. But he says, it worked. Jimmy Nichol. All right. Rushing through 1915 and to 1960. Rock and roll is happening right now. And a little concert tour that's put together combining American rock and roll and English rock and roll is called the Fast Moving Anglo-American Beat Show. Long title, but anyway, it combines the two worlds of rock and roll from England and United States. So the British side is going to be Vince Eager and his Quiet Three, and that's the band that Jimmy Nichol is playing drums with. The American guys are going to be Eddie Cochran and Gene Vincent. And just a side story. There's with Vince Eager becomes really good friends with Eddie Cochran and Gene Vincent, and unfortunately, they're in a taxi cab, and the guy crashes, and Eddie Cochran dies. It's a terrible story. So that splits up, that ends that rock and roll tour. Jimmy Nichol moves on to do different gigs with more like big band music, more like traditional jazz stuff. And eventually he starts working with Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames. And Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames puts on these really popular all-nighters where they play from 6 to 6. Like, it's just wild, crazy rock and roll. All right, so I'm going to fast forward here. Ringo's out. Brian Epstein is looking for a drummer. Paul McCartney, who was friends with Georgie Fame, calls Georgie Fame and says, "Hey, Ringo's sick. Can we use your drummer?" Georgie Fame says, "Sure." So, to tell you the truth, Jimmy Nichol, he knows all of the Beatles songs. He knows exactly, like the set list of what they're doing on tour, he knows that stuff. Why? Because Jimmy Nichol was working on this little label called Top Six, and they would put these musicians together and do covers of the Beatles songs, the popular ones at the time. So, and then they would issue the record like in a record shop, and it just says Beatlemania. So so a 14-year-old would see it and buy it. Yay, the Beatles! I love the Beatles, and take it home. And it was like, it was 6 songs, 3 on each side. Put it on the record player and realize this sounds like the Beatles, but it's not the Beatles. Anyway, so Jimmy Nichol knows all the songs. So they ask him to come in. They do a quick rehearsal. It's not a rehearsal. They want him. So he gets the job. Jimmy is used to getting £9 per session, and the Beatles are going to pay him £2,500, and that blows your mind, man, because that's what a jump. So he's totally pampered. A stylist comes in to get him sized for his suits. He gets his hair done. Get like a Beatle mop top. So poor Ringo's in the hospital, and he's quoted saying, "It was all very strange. I wasn't well, and they took Jimmy Nichol, and I thought they didn't love me anymore. And that was what I was going through in my head." Poor Ringo, that sucks. So this is definitely not a secret. It's in the newspapers. It's everyone knows this. It's not like they're secretly hiding Ringo away. It's known. All right, so 1964, June 4th, they set out to Denmark. About 40 to 50 teens are there to say goodbye to the Beatles as they fly away. And Denmark is where Jimmy will experience thousands of teens awaiting them at the airport. And it's definitely a bit of a change from not having fans to having this kind of a thing. He's not used to this, right? But it's pretty cool. So they're scheduled to play 2 shows at this sports arena inside Copenhagen's Tivoli Gardens. A couple of bands are scheduled to play before the Beatles. So the Beatles are only going to do a few songs with no encores, and they have to scrap a song, "I Want to Be Your Man," which was a song that was sung by Ringo. So they can't do that one. Jimmy's not a singer. All right, so the band that goes on before the Beatles is called the Hitmakers, and they are wrapping it up. But then they're about to leave the stage, but then they go on for an encore. So the Beatles have to wait. And their encore is Little Richard's Long Tall Sally, which really pisses off Paul McCartney because that was going to be their last song. Not an encore, but their last song. So finally the Beatles go on, and it's a little rocky because the teens are screaming so loud that Jimmy can't hear the band. So he's playing too fast. It's not time. So John turns and shows Jimmy stroking on the 2 note, on the 4 note, so at least he can have the beat. So it's cool because it's not like fuck you, Jimmy, you fucked us up. No. They like Jimmy. Jimmy's great, So after their set, they walk off. There's no encores for the Beatles. The fans are kind of pissed. They're throwing like a potted plant or something. And then Paul McCartney goes over to the Hitmakers and admonishes them, saying you're not gonna play that song on the second set, okay? Because they're doing 2. They said, okay, we're sorry, Paul. All right, June 5th, 1964, Amsterdam. the press interviews where Jimmy Nichol really shows his humility. He's he's a decent guy. He's a nice guy, and the band equally respect him. So they do a lip sync session of a few songs, and the fans storm the stage and they get whisked off. June 6, 1964, they're in a glass ceiling boat in like the canals of Amsterdam, and fans are like jumping into the canal to swim to the boat, but the police are right there to like pull them in, and there's every once in a while you'll see like a sign, like a fan will hold a sign like handwritten that says "Get well, Ringo." So Jimmy's accepted, but there's also the thought of like, when is Ringo coming back? They do an evening show after the little boat canal ride, and they make a killing doing they make a killing on merchandise. Like, people are like thousands of dollars they made on like hats and programs and pins and even Beatles nylon stockings, all during like a quick less than an hour performance. All right. Jimmy is having a blast. The Beatles are accepting and friendly to him. Jimmy's quote is, "This is strange and scary all at once. There is so little sanity to it at all." All right. I think Jimmy is experiencing Beatlemania. So June 7, 1964, a flight to Hong Kong. The singer Tony Sheridan, who is friends with the Beatles and friends with Jimmy Nichol, and they party on the plane. They're just drinking champagne and taking Preludin pills. It's like speed. June 9 in Hong Kong. Okay, Hong Kong is still under English control. They have like an army base there. And the concert tickets for the Hong Kong show are way too high. Like, there's no way like a young teenage kid could get a ticket. So the audience is basically military people. So it was like, Paul McCartney thought it was funny because it was like the audience was completely khaki, the color, the pants and everything. And Paul McCartney said it was very quiet. We could hear. He was like, it was very funny, but at least we could hear what we were playing. There's no screaming. Okay, so now the plan is to go to Australia for the next part of the tour. Jimmy Nichol is he's kind of like nerve-wracked a little bit because there's not much for you to do. You're going to be in a plane, then you're going to be in a car, then you're going to be in a hotel, then you're going to be in a concert, then you're going to be back at the hotel. So he describes this as being in boxes, from one box to another. And but he is really getting along with John Lennon, and they have a similar sense of humor. They talk a lot about music. Everyone likes Jimmy. The three Beatles know that this Beatle lifestyle is definitely not for everyone, and they can see Jimmy like getting a little razzled, right? All right, so reports are asked by Brian Epstein about the audience. Like, they want to know, is with a Ringo replacement, are you guys doing good? Are you doing bad? Are you doing what? Is this a disaster? Should we pull the plug? But no, it's great. Like, there is a curiosity of like, when's Ringo coming back? But we're loving it. You know what I mean? So it's win-win. Okay, so let's see here. There's no way Jimmy is being rejected. He's not. He's being accepted. All right. So, upon arriving at Sydney, Australia, a DJ announces his umbrage at a drummer taking the place of Ringo Starr. And this DJ is saying how, if you're coming all the way to Australia without Ringo, why don't you give an Australian drummer a chance? There's so many drummers down here that could help out the Beatles. That's like the only kind of a negative like any kind of comment they heard, but they don't. No one in the band or any press like responded. It was just kind of ridiculous notion. But a separate DJ has done some work and has located Jimmy's cousins. He has cousins down in Australia, and he kind of got them together. So Jimmy spends a day with his cousins. All right, so George, John, and Paul are all very recognizable, right? But it's Jimmy who's the one. He could sneak out of the hotel and he's not going to get swarmed, right? And he does. He likes it. He does this. I need to get out and go see the town. So the other three are stuck in the hotel room. Jimmy's out. He goes to a bar or whatever. So the other three are stuck in the hotel room, and they have parties. They have girls in there, and they have there's drinking and partying and stuff. There's like some sort of PR agent who's in there, and something is a little fishy about this guy, and they start watching him, and it turns out that he has like a little tiny James Bond camera on his tie, and he's like trying to take these little pictures of, John making out with his chick, or like George pounding the champagne. They finally catch him, and they take off the little James Bond camera, and they open it, and they pull out the film, and they kick him out of the hotel party. They say, "A spy was among us." They all start laughing. It was funny. All right. Meanwhile, Jimmy successfully sneaks out. No one recognizes him, and he has some choices of where to go. There's a lot of big, kind of like popular bars, right? He chooses this place called Checkers. It's a cabaret club, which this night the performance is by this woman named Frances Faye. Frances Faye was an American artist, and she's known for singing, mentioning, joking about her bisexuality. So it's kind of risque. And she's fun, and she's funny, and she loves the Beatles. So as soon as Jimmy enters the bar, she sees him, and she says, "The Beatles are here!" And she pulls him aside for a sec, and then finishes her first set. And then during the break, she invites Jimmy back to her room, and they talk about music, and Jimmy plays drums for her second set. And she was so thankful. She was like, "I'm going to send you all my records. Thank you so much." But that's the cool thing about Jimmy. He's a good dude. Like he likes to party, and he plays drums, and he's not afraid, man. He does it. So June 12th. Oh, forgot. So anyway, but that same night, Paul tries to sneak out as well. Paul tries to sneak out, and it's unsuccessful. Some kids spot him. They chase him, and he has to get back in the hotel. Poor Paul. All right. Anyway, June 12th, Adelaide, Australia. No one shows up at their airport. But as soon as they get on the road, it is lined with crowds of people. It's like the biggest thing they've ever seen. 300,000 people are welcoming the Beatles. So they're on their car through the road. They drive up to the Lord Mayor's town hall home, where they are whisked in, and they're doing like balcony waves. They're going on the balcony waving, and there's so many people that everyone is saying, audience members, press, anyone who's around are saying this is more people than when the Queen visited us. And George Harrison's reply to that was, of course, she didn't have any hit records. So another thing here is that the press are questioning Jimmy. Like when they do like these press conferences, they'll ask John and George all these things, but then they get around to Jimmy. Every once in a while, they have a little question, something like, "Jimmy, how would you feel if Brian Epstein made you Ringo Starr's permanent stand-in?" It's putting the seed in his head, like maybe I can be the drummer. He's getting used to it. He likes it. Maybe I could be the drummer. He's thinking about it, right? So that's the question, right? Unbeknownst to Jimmy, the word had officially arrived that Ringo was on his way to meet the band in Melbourne, accompanied by Brian Epstein. That's where we're going to take a break right here. So, is the party over? What's going to happen? So, thank you for sticking around. I'm really enjoying this book. The Beatle Who Vanished by Jim Birkenstadt. And I will see you next time. If you like this episode, you like this podcast, give me 5 stars. Go ahead. Use any app you use. Spotify, Apple, whatever, iHeartRadio. If you want to contact the podcast, you can send an email to jaysrockandrollstories@proton.me. And I will see you next time for part 2 of The Beatle Who Vanished, Jimmy Nichol. See you then. Bye.